Happy Friday, friends. I had a couple of thoughts this morning. This week I had been reading some email about the idea of a candidate for Ada County Sheriff, and my involvement in the trying to reach out to law enforcement and sheriffs across the state have made me come up with several questions, many of which I've mentioned on these videos from time to time. You know, the common understanding, ironically, is that when you ask a sheriff or a police chief if they're constitutional, more times than not, the answer will be, yes, I am constitutional. The irony about that is, while they say that on one hand, they're getting free training by the federal government, on the other, clarifying those that question or even use the word constitution are those that should be seen as the enemy. I think that's a bit ironic. The dangerous thing about this that the average American doesn't really seem to understand is that the Constitution is a nice word in the political realm to be able to get you elected. It's nice to be able to hear when somebody says, I support and defend the Constitution, and I'll agree with that. I'm very, very apprehensive, though, when they use words in conjunction like, I'm a constitutional conservative, I support gun rights, I support the Fourth Amendment and all of that. It gives me an idea that they might know a little bit more about what they're talking about, or perhaps they've been trained to use these code words thinking that it will help them better become elected. And I think to some degree this is where the danger then becomes, is because, and I like to say this now anymore, is and I think more people are doing it, is how do you define these terms? How do you define what the Constitution means? How do you define what freedom means? How do you define liberty? How are they separated? And what you'll find when you ask them these questions is that they don't know how to answer them. So they've gone so far as to educate themselves superficially to try to appeal to the masses, because the masses don't necessarily know what questions to ask. So I've made it, I have kind of trained myself over time, when I'm not emotionally caught in some diatribe, to be able to ask more questions than I make statements. And I do this because when you make statements and you're wrong, you can look extremely ignorant. And I don't like to be like that. I ask questions because many times on Facebook I can get some great answers from you guys on where I'm wrong. If I were to make statements, you could just discredit me or block me and think this guy's beyond, he's 52 years old, he's beyond becoming educated, as you can't teach old dogs new tricks. Well, I don't want to be an old dog, and if I have to be an old dog, I certainly want to be able to learn new tricks. The idea in this age in America today is we all need to be open to become educated at all times and accept all sources of information to be able to verify those, to be able to find the truth. I think that's buried in Scripture as well. Being a Christian or a man of faith, or somebody that adheres to a particular doctrine, it's in our best interest to be able to understand that doctrine. The Constitution is much the same way. So basically, when we start going into these sheriff's debates and these law enforcement agencies, and we start seeing people that are vowing, they're trying to get your vote, we need to ask how they define the Constitution. The other question that isn't asked very often is, why was the Constitution created? And what is the jurisdictional boundaries between the federal Constitution and the state Constitution? And how do the laws of the state of Idaho fit into those? The other thing, is that people have these specialty questions that they are very concerned about. Jade Helm is one of them. The 1033 program with the MRAPs is another one. The education in the post academy is the other one. Whether they'll actually confiscate our guns is a huge question. Um, and and the rest of that. So, and when this particular stuff happens and you start getting down into knowing how to ask the right questions and defining those questions and training yourself to ask the same questions over again, it doesn't take long with a basic amount of information to be able to figure out where somebody is even without telling them. So if somebody says, for example, I'm a constitutional sheriff, but I believe that MRAPs are necessary because we might need to be able to protect an officer down. Well, I would submit that, well, you guys already know how I feel about that. The other one is, can we justify, what does due process mean to you? Is it okay to be able to bust into a particular man's home? And they'll say, well, under certain circumstances it is. Well, they never even volunteered to mention the necessity of a warrant. Do they believe in traffic violations, and do they believe that going 3 miles an hour over the speed limit, for example, is a criminal offense? And you'll find that some of them actually believe that it is. Well, first of all, if ignorance is no excuse of the law, then they should realize it's not a criminal offense at all. It's considered an infraction. And according to our own courts, even though they have sort of amalgamated the terms, in their realm, when they talk to you, they'll tell you, oh no, there's a definite separation between infractions and crimes. Well, the law enforcement doesn't even see it that way. So you can take a seasoned 30-year law enforcement officer and you can ask him these questions, and what you'll find out is he has no idea of our form of government. He has no idea of the checks and balances. He's got no idea of the limits on his authority, because in post-academy they're not taught that. And so what we end up with is we're in a very dangerous situation, because we have clearly become the subjects and the government has clearly become the master, and they're trying to buy your vote, telling you that they buy into the freedom and the Constitution and all of that, when in reality they have their own understanding of what that means. In addition, nobody's even questioned them. Well, how can you say that you're a constitutional person on one hand while you're getting federal free training that basically calls the person that you say that you support yourself as the enemy? And so the problem is that when you ask them about the jurisdiction between the federal government and the state governments, they actually believe that some of them actually believe that the abolition of any jurisdictional boundaries between the federal and the state governments is a good thing. Well, that's not constitutional. That completely strips the power of the sheriff away. So I urge you guys, as we come up to the election season and we look for Ada County sheriffs or Canyon County sheriffs or whoever we're looking for, devise a line of questioning that will respectfully, I think, get the answers that you desire, and with the basic education that you possess, you'll actually know if somebody's the kind of constitutional person that you're looking for. 9 times out of 10, however, I'm believing that you probably won't, which is going to leave you in the kind of situation that we've been in forever due to the ignorance of the people. Is that, do you want to unseat the establishment and hope to God the person you vote for is better off than the guy you have in there now? And I think that's the issue with Sheriff Rainey, with his newly appointed position for the DOJ, to be able to oversee local police departments. I think I heard. I just heard that. I can't verify that yet. But the one would question whether that's constitutional. And of course, the question out to Sheriff Rainey is, according to your letter, if you think that it's okay to step outside the Constitution sometimes, and you happen to be the sheriff, are you actually, in the name of the law, acting lawless, expecting others to be able to obey the law? And when you're expecting them to, on your idea that ignorance is no excuse of the law, are you then ignorant? So I hope that makes sense. I wanted to give you guys some thoughts today as we go forward, and I know Ada County's looking for a new sheriff. Good luck with that one. And anyway, we need to remain vigilant, and we need to be respectful, because today they do rule over us, whether you like it or not. And if we can help to open the doors, educate them, tell them we love them, help educate them on how they've been deceived, I think we're going to Idaho might be able to protect itself from the pending chaos of the rest of the nation with issues like Ferguson and Baltimore and wherever else is going. So God bless you guys. Have a great Friday. Talk to you later. Bye.